how to use the question formulation technique as part of that process. So we are looking at how to accelerate the movement from teacher questions to student questions. When students ask questions, their questions become a catalyst for greater curiosity, for engagement, for ownership, and for deeper learning. And so I'm going to give you a quick introduction now to how the question formulation technique does that. It basically helps accelerate the shift in that one shift from teachers asking questions of students to students asking their own questions. It distills some of the best pedagogical practices into a very simple teaching and learning process that makes it accessible for all teachers, novices, and veterans alike. And it offers a shortcut to student engagement, ownership, and deeper learning. So when the question formulation technique is used in the classroom, students learn to work with their questions, and that specifically means that they're producing their own questions, which is significant on its own. They're actually working with their questions to improve their questions. They strategize on how to use their questions, and as part of the process, they reflect on what they have learned and how they learned it. So now, let's take a look at the question formulation technique in practice and give you an opportunity to ask some questions. So let's look at this set of rules that we've created for producing questions. There are 4 rules here. I want you to know that it took us about 8 years to create those 4 rules. Now, I'm sure you're all doing the math there and figuring that we've done a half a rule a year. Actually, what we had to do is we had to figure out how not to create a list of 100 rules on how to get students who are not accustomed to asking questions to actually start producing questions. And we tried to look at what's the simplest way to do that. And here are the 4 rules. Number 1, ask as many questions as you can. 2, do not stop to answer, judge, or discuss. 3, write down every question exactly as stated. And 4, change any statements into questions. Now, of course, we would like the first one, ask as many questions as you can, to be sufficient, but as you know, it's not. There's a need to create a structure and a safe space for doing that. So take a moment, look at those questions, and think about what might be difficult for you in following these rules. Which of the rules do you think might be most difficult for you to follow? So we're going to now take a look at an example, and you're going to get to use these rules and ask some questions. So I'm going to show you now what we call a question focus, which is meant to be the catalyst for student questions. So it's not a question from the teacher of the students, but rather it's a teacher-designed selected focus for them to start asking questions. So here, take a look at this question focus. Take a moment there. That's the caning of Sumner, as may be familiar to you all. And it happened in the US Senate in 1856. So you're now going to get a chance to look at some student questions, but before you do that, what are some questions that you might ask about this question focus? Remember not to edit yourselves. Write down a few questions as quickly as you can. Okay. I would love for you to be able to keep on asking questions, but I'm going to take you through the whole process to take a look at it. And I see in a lot of the questions in the chat that you'll enjoy seeing the 6th graders' questions as I present them to you now. So this was a teacher here in the Boston, Massachusetts area teaching a unit on the Civil War, and she used the question focus and the question formulation technique as a pre-reading activity to engage the students. So now let's look at their questions. Why are they fighting? Are they fighting? Are they part of the government? Where were they? Very key question that they're asking right up front there. What started the fight? Who are they? Were they signing anything? Who else was there? Why are you hitting him? Which, of course, is a great middle school question, too. And then, why didn't they call 911? So that's one to enjoy there in the middle of this list. But look at the very next question. Was this related to slavery? And it moves all the way through to the end. Why are they smiling? And I noticed from the chat that somebody asked a question about that as well. Somebody else asked a question about the pen. So you'll see that you had questions that were similar to the questions that they were asking. I love number 15 as well, who hit who first, which is truly a great middle school question. So there you see what happens when students get a chance to produce their own questions following those rules. If you look at question number 18, why are they smiling? That's a detail that I certainly had missed. I know that some of you had not missed it. And it's a really interesting thing for them to be observing, and that shows the level of engagement with the primary source of how carefully they are looking at it. So now